Yaps. It's in the name. So Apple's event in 2025, Marquise Brownlee, MKHB, put out a video breaking it down. Let's figure out what's all up. What's
All
coming
right, so
up?
today
What's on the new
was
iPhone?
Apple's big software event for 2025,
Yeah.
WWDC, and it was actually a really interesting one. I was kind of wondering how this would go because in this landscape of AI, everyone's talking about
They got
Gemini and
good old
GPT
iPhone. I think this is
everywhere,
the 13.
where it feels like Apple is being left behind. They could kind of go one of two ways. They could either double down on Apple Intelligence and just lean right in, like everything's fine, everything's going to plan, or they could shelf some of that stuff but show a whole bunch of other stuff and hope that that's good enough. So now we've seen the keynote and I've gotten to try a lot of these software features.
See the
and
clock
think
change
about
in the
them a
background?
lot. And they definitely did the second thing.
Colorless
Don't get me wrong,
icons.
There's much more other stuff than AI versus what like Google was doing earlier, but I do think that that other stuff was actually kind of a lot. And so maybe you can leave a comment below if you agree with me, after you subscribe, of course. But this is everything you need to know about WWDC 2025. So first of all, they always talk about all of their OSs, all their platforms this year, and they are now all unified in their version number, just to keep it simple. So instead of having iOS 19, iPadOS 19, tvOS 19, macOS 16, watchOS 12, and visionOS 3, they're now just doing version 26 for everything. Kind of the same thing Samsung
That's
just did
nice.
with their phones in 2020, how they matched the
Honestly,
year.
that's nice.
Even though it's a year ahead, cool, easy. And everything is
But
getting
that's
this fresh,
that's like a quality of
glassy
life
coat of
feature. I want
paint
some
over
actual
everything
features.
to be unified as well. So it's more obvious in some places that I'll show you, and less noticeable in some others. But in general, they're calling this liquid glass. And they're treating basically every window, every dialog box, every icon, every sidebar that they possibly can as like a piece of physical glass that's mostly
Okay.
transparent to the things below it. Even the lock screen clock and some text, some fonts are clear and transparent. So
Can you just change your background like that?
we
What's
might as
more?
well start here
These
with
are just
iOS
quality of life
26
changes.
because this is the biggest one.
Not
All
bad.
of the
I'll take 'em,
icons are
but
slightly updated. The lock screen
give me
clock
something
is just
juicy,
this big,
Apple.
glassy, clear time that adapts to the size of what's behind it. Once you unlock
I mean, it
the
looks
iPhone,
great.
overall, like zoomed out, it doesn't look that different. It's slightly different, but they also kept showing this clear home screen setup where all of the widgets and icons are all clear. This is a new option, and I don't know about this one. I mean, it is new, and you can do that if you want to, or never turn it on if you don't want to, but
Am I weird for liking that? I mean, maybe once it's in my hands, I won't like it. But from here, I kind of fuck with it.
I just think it's a little much, and readability might be kind of tough. But beyond the liquid glass thing, there are also some new features. Like they redesigned the camera app, really for the first time in a decade.
For some reason,
plus.
I thought Homie had
it's
heels
now going to
on.
be super simplified to just photo and video buttons and the shutter. And then there's a whole bunch of hidden UI. So you have to swipe to reveal the additional modes. And those
I don't know
still
if I
work
like
the way
that.
they did before. But then also the frames per second and resolution settings are also super hidden. You have to know to hit that little button up there in the corner to change to 30 or 60 FPS, which is a really interesting choice there. I mean, especially on an iPhone where
Interesting.
you kind of have to assume Apple knows which things people click most of the time. This kind of implies that nobody ever changes a lot of these things. The swipe up to reveal a lot of those settings, most people will never see that. But hey, you're watching this
That's
video,
true.
so now you know that the live photos
I would've
setting
figured it out.
toggle is there under that swipe. So good for you. There's also a new FaceTime app with a new landing page to quickly hit up your main contacts. And then also the phone app is updated to bring voicemail and missed calls and contacts all into one
Oh,
unified
look at that.
place. Kind of like that. And they've
Yeah.
also matched or
Quality of
copied,
life
you can
changes,
say it
man.
however you want, matched or copied, but they've matched two of my favorite Pixel features from the dialer, from the phone app, which is call screening and hold for me. Those are the Pixel feature names. So now in iOS 26, there's a feature that can automatically screen unknown numbers, and it'll answer the call for you and then transcribe whatever the person says before trying to ring you and showing you who's calling, which is interesting because the Pixel
No, everybody hates this. This is when you call the doctor or somewhere like some corporate office and you have to talk to an AI agent before you could talk to a real person, or like the bank. Prime example, you call the bank, you have to talk to this like robot for 2 minutes and you're like, "Come on, let me just talk to another human being."
would let me choose that
Now you got to do that when you call your friends?
for every single call manually. But then also the hold assist feature is a no-brainer. It just waits on hold for you while you do other things, and when it's time to come back, it rings you again. Both super useful. And there's also a couple iMessage features, like you can do native polls inside of iMessage now. Typing indicators in group chats will show you which person
That's going to be
typing,
toxic in the group chat.
And you can add pictures as backgrounds for each of your iMessage chats. None of this is groundbreaking or unheard of, but it is nice that they're finally adding
I feel like
and then I'd say the
Samsung's had
most
that for years.
focused thing here is Translate, and I feel like there's like a storm of like a video idea brewing where I might have to make an entire essay about how this is the year of live translation. It's just happening all at once now. But yeah, in short, Apple added live translation to FaceTime, to Messages, and the phone app, and it works basically as you'd expect with the on-device AI models. If you turn it on during a phone call, you can hear a person speak in their own language, and then it gets translated and read in your language.
Wow.
And then if you want to speak back, it gets translated again and read back in another voice to that person. So
I probably think about this honestly way too much than I probably should, but the idea of there's so many issues and conflicts and frustrations with people because of language barriers and not being able to understand each other. And I mean on a global level, and I just mean like work day to day, you know. Excuse me. Like maybe your coworkers just, you know, he's Portuguese, you're Hispanic, you guys don't, it's close but not the same. Like this just fixes all of that.
a little laggy, but it gets the job done. There's also a little bit more stuff in Maps and in Apple Music and a new Games app. I plan on breaking all of this down in a dedicated best new features of iOS video. Definitely get subscribed if you want to see that right when it comes out. I always do this when the public beta rolls around, so that's coming soon. But my main concern from seeing Apple's demo videos and playing with it a little bit myself is readability. This glass aesthetic,
yeah, the clear feature I can understand.
Cool sometimes, but it also is a little hard to read sometimes. Like I get that the clear and glassy sheen is very modern and it looks like Vision OS and it's fresh, but also there's a reason that we add backgrounds to things in the video world a lot, even if it's subtle.
True.
Because it's to provide more contrast to make things easier to see, just basic stuff. And there were so many bits of text, like notifications or menus or even UI elements, that just looked kind of harder to read.
Yeah, I can see that.
The OS is supposed to adapt to
it
by giving light things dark backgrounds and dark things light backgrounds. But sometimes you'll have like a half light, half dark background.
Yeah,
and
somewhere in the middle.
That's where things get weird. So I'm curious how this is going to play out. Now, some of the other smaller updates, watchOS 26 also got a lot of these glassy UI elements. And it's noticeable. There's big touch areas and reflections and glassy buttons galore. And you can also definitely feel that fresh coat of paint. But beyond that, I really like the new wrist flick gesture, which is just that. So if you ever get a notification and you don't want to do anything with it, you know how it just kind of sits on the watch for a while? You can just flip it and it goes away. So if you're getting a notification, you don't care, flip it. You're getting a phone call, you don't want to accept the phone call, dismiss it. If you got an alarm that's starting to ring or anything else like that, you don't want to be on your screen, just flip your wrist and it goes away. I think I'll be doing this all the time. And
everyone's just going to be
Workout Buddy, which feels, I'm going to describe it as Spotify DJ, but for Apple Watch workouts. Like it's basically a new customizable high energy voice that talks to you at various times that it thinks you need some energy or motivation during your workout just by telling you stuff like random stats.
Just based off your heart rate?
Or your mile splits. Or, hey, this is your third workout of the week. Great job. Keep it up. Stuff like that. Still no group
I would turn that off.
Though. I'm going to just keep saying that every year because every year I think they're going to do it and every year they don't do it. Still no group fitness challenges. But then there was tvOS 26. That also got new liquid glass, and I'll be honest with this one, I barely notice it here, but apparently the icons are shimmering a little differently, allegedly. But also just more content, obviously. Otherwise, not a huge upgrade there. But then there's macOS 26, which is also called Tahoe. And this one, you notice. This one's got way more very clear elements to it. And some of it kind of can look cool. Others, I really don't like as much personally. And I thought this again about some older versions of
I like that.
I'm sure we'll get used to it. But like the control center,
I think that just looks clean.
Classified, feels a little more cartoony buttons. I'm just not a huge fan of that. You can also do clear widgets, clear dock. And the menu bar is completely clear at the top, which is also sweet, makes your screen feel bigger.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's some stuff to get used to here. I think I like
Oh,
some of
I
it,
probably
just
would
not
go
totally
tinted.
like winning
I
me over
probably
yet.
would go
One really good
tinted.
feature now though is live activities, which is already a nice thing on the iPhone. If you have an iPhone and a Mac, it'll show up in the little menu bar in the Mac when something is like happening, a delivery or a flight information, whatever it is.
Got it.
You can click on it, and that'll view that convenient information from the live activity. And then if you want to click on it again, you can bring up the whole iPhone mirrored app to keep track of that live activity. Makes a lot of sense. Nice continuity feature. Anyway, the Mac also gets the new phone app, so your voicemail and everything in one place, and the hold for me, all those features. But the number one biggest update I'm interested in on the Mac is actually the new Spotlight. Now, some of you might not care about Spotlight, but some of you are productivity nerds like me because you're subscribed to a tech YouTube channel, and you might already know about this, but my favorite productivity app on the Mac, and it has been for years, every fresh new Mac I install it first, is called Raycast. And it's basically Spotlight on steroids. It lets you open apps, but also do shortcuts and do window management and find files and do even more useful things like viewing my clipboard history. So now Apple comes out and shows us the new Spotlight in macOS 26, and it does almost all of that stuff. This is what we call in the industry getting Sherlocked. Basically, Apple showed a whole bunch of really cool stuff you can do now with the new Spotlight. It's got this sweet animation which separates out things like file searches or Siri shortcut searches. You can do shortcuts from the keyboard to open actions inside of certain apps and perform them straight up entire strings of commands without even opening an app or touching your mouse. Real power user stuff.
Wow.
Productivity nerd stuff right here. It doesn't do fully every single thing that I've done with Raycast.
That's dope,
like
though. That's a nice update.
Tab over and start a new search or conversation with GPT or Gemini or a bunch of other stuff. The Spotlight doesn't do that yet, but who's to say if next year they might add that feature or might slowly start doing all of the things that Raycast does. It's an interesting step. It's definitely better. But then, okay, Vision OS. This is where all the glass came from. This is technically only the third version of Vision OS, but now it's Vision OS 26. And there's some smaller updates to this one, but I think the new widgets, even though they're kind of silly and not really that functional, I think they're awesome. I think they're super cool. Basically, you can pin these things to persistent locations and customize the size and depth and color of them exactly how you want. So they showed things like clocks and weather widgets and picture frames, but then they have these like really convincing location pinning.
This is going to be the future. I'm telling you guys. With the Vision OS, I get that it's big and bulky right now, but when it could just be glasses and you put it on and all of a sudden you have your room, but then you have your other room, your like virtual room, and it's like you're living in this weird blend of IRL and virtual reality. You live in this weird augmented reality. This is the future.
Plus all the reflectivity and depth that they always have. And I don't know. I thought it was super cool. I was sold. But really, this is also pinned with the fact that Vision OS or the Vision Pro will remember where you put your Windows now.
Kind of dystopian, though.
All the time. Like through a reboot and everything, which it didn't do
before.
Oh,
that's
huge. It was
huge.
one of my biggest complaints I talked about in the original Vision OS review. So, yes, it will remember where you put your Windows and where you put your widgets. The updated
that's way more
fidelity
useful
of the
now.
personas also... it's inevitable. Like we just knew they were going to continually get more and more photorealistic.
Wow,
so they showed another pretty big jump. Not sure if you're going to have to do another scan to get the updated persona, but either way, looks much better and less cartoon ghosty. And there's also, they added PlayStation VR 2 Sense controller support, which no doubt will be much better for some of the more precise controls in certain games. There's also a new Jupiter environment. So you're on one of Jupiter's moons with Jupiter in the sky above you. Cool.
I mean, if you're rich and you have one of these, I bet it's so cool.
Video support playback for cameras from GoPro, Insta360, and Canon. It's pretty cool. We're still hoping to see like more high quality 360 content for these headsets to view. There's some on YouTube, but not a ton. But then the biggest, most interesting update of the day, by far to me, was iPadOS 26.
Okay.
This was fascinating because every
what
iPad
update did
Pro
this thing
video
get
for the last 6 years or however long it's been has always said the same thing. It's great, it's amazing hardware, it's very powerful, but it's still an iPad, meaning it's still going to have lots of limitations. And we never really expect Apple to add those really computer-like extra features because they make computers too. Why? They're a business. They're not going to cannibalize their own products. They're not going to overlap that stuff. So there's iPads and then there's computers. But with this update, I feel like they use the word game changer, which they use that word all the time. But I actually feel like this genuinely fit the bill because they added things, multitasking, file management, things straight from the Mac. So yes, it still has the liquid glass, of course. It has the new phone app, the new lock screen, all the new icons and widgets.
It looks just like a clean, modern update.
But then this whole new multitasking and multi-window system where in any app, you can just grab that handle in the bottom right corner and shrink it in and make the app whatever size you want immediately to a floating window. And then you can just start stacking floating windows and putting them side by side and messing around with window management very, very freely. I'm sure there's a limit to how many windows you can have open. I got as many as 4 open at the same time.
Wow.
But not only that, they added this 3-dot window control to the corner of each window, the stoplights that we have straight from the Mac. So you can minimize or change the shape of any app just like on a Mac. And on top of that, there's a new literal Mac menu bar at the top of the screen, just giving you file, edit, view, menu, help, just stuff that you see in Mac apps.
When does this come out?
There's also a redesigned cursor that seems a lot more like a Mac cursor. It's less of a floating blob that had like the aim assist that we had before. Now it's just a normal mouse. There's also a new Files app that lets you sort through things with different ways, the same way you would with the Finder app on a Mac. There's now, like, you can have downloads in your dock. There's all kinds of things that, I mean, as someone who's used a Mac for years, feels exactly like a Mac. There is even an audio input selector built in now for all media apps, which sounds like such a small thing, but do you know how hard it's been to change your microphone input source on an iPad for all of these years? It's like they're choosing now to add it. Great. Also, background activities. So if you're exporting something from Final Cut Pro for iPad, you can close the Final Cut Pro app and do other things, and the export will continue in the background just like a computer. So yeah, as a computer user, I'm fascinated. This moves the iPad, especially
this is a big update for the iPad
Pro, way further on the spectrum of compelling laptop alternatives for certain people. It certainly doesn't do everything.
Is it like the next big step for an iPad is just gaming, right? Like get more games than just mobile games on it, but I understand why it can't just because that's a Mac issue entirely.
Obviously, it still doesn't have multiple profile support. There are some basics that we're still going to be missing, but I never thought that they would go this far. It definitely feels like in lieu of some other AI stuff, they took a lot of wish list things that people have been talking about with the iPads and gave them to us. But speaking of that, I mean, the real question is, were all of those features enough to, tide us over, to distract us from the lack of AI stuff? I looked at the transcript, and if the transcript that I have is accurate, they said the word Siri 2 times in that entire 90-minute keynote. So that clearly wasn't a big focus. And to me, it just feels like
no one likes Siri.
Apple's AI strength, if they have one, is really much more in how well integrated their features are. It's not going to be how good the AI is, it's just how plugged in they are to their ecosystem. Like a lot of features they showed us do use AI, but they aren't necessarily branded as AI or Apple Intelligence all the time. And then also,
the auto translate obviously is AI.
So some of this Apple Intelligence stuff is slowly taking steps forward, including them making their own foundational models available for developers to have access to those on-device models. And
that's great. That way people can actually get their hands on it and start making cool shit.
Build more AI features into their apps. Now, are those going to be the best models in the world? No, probably not, at least not right now. But they are on-device and local and can be used offline, and will probably be the fastest since they don't have to go to the internet and back. So you can probably expect many more apps to have little AI features built into them, whether it's just summarizations here and there or shortening things that were longer, things like that. Now, as for the big LLM Siri upgrade that we kind of in the background knew was taking too long, they had a statement at the very beginning of the keynote. If you blinked, you might have missed it. But the statement was, "This work required more time to reach our high quality bar, and we look forward to sharing more about it in the coming year, 2026. We'll see. I just like that they added the on-screen capabilities for visual intelligence. So it was just from the camera feed before, but now, you know how every Android phone has circle to search? Well, yeah, now with screenshots, the iPhone's gonna get that too.
Finally.
This was a fascinating WWDC. I am very excited to dig into these.
All right, all right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just it seems like it's just a major software update. Like we're seeing what's to come, and honestly, I kind of like what's to come. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the changes coming? Are you team Apple or are you team like Galaxy? Are you Android or iPhone? Let me know down below. But as always, I challenge you guys, make somebody laugh today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.